This story is set in a post-apocalyptic United States, devastated by a severe drought where water has become a commodity worth killing for. The Holm family, including Ernest, his son Jerome, and daughter Mary, stay behind, believing that crops can grow again if they find water. Ernest is determined, remembering a time when the land was green, but Jerome doesn't recall it. The tension begins when two thieves attempt to break into a building on Ernest's farm, claiming they're looking for water. Ernest shoots one thief after he threatens him, but the second thief begs for mercy, explaining he was misled about the water inside. Ernest does not trust him and kills the first thief, while Jerome watches from a distance, feeling helpless. Ernest insists Jerome address him as Dad, not by his first name, signaling the strained relationship between them. They open the small building, only to find a dry well, and continue their journey, dragging a thirsty donkey along. They reach a group of water merchants who control access to deep well water. Ernest trades supplies for water, but the merchants demand high sums of money for further assistance. On their return trip, the donkey collapses from exhaustion, and Ernest is forced to euthanize it, which devastates Jerome. Back at the farm, things take a darker turn. Mary sneaks out to meet her secret lover, and Jerome's trust in his father is further strained. The family's financial troubles mount as Ernest bids on a robot at an auction, using the last of their money. They also visit Catherine, the children's mother, who is unable to walk after an accident. The only way to bring her home is to buy an expensive machine, but the family cannot afford it. In a moment of compassion, Ernest helps a struggling couple, Ruby and Seuss, by giving them water and advising them not to sell their baby. Soon, Ernest encounters Mary's lover, who requests to borrow the robot, but Ernest refuses without a signed contract. The situation grows more tense when Ernest tries to convince the water merchants to lay a water line to his farm, but they're unwilling to help without significant payment. Ernest begins digging up an old pump on the farm, hoping to access water. He advises Jerome to seek out friendships, but Jerome prefers to care for his mother. Meanwhile, Mary rebels, expressing her anger and desire for independence, especially after Ernest tries to stop her from leaving again. She eventually escapes, making it clear that she feels her father has failed to protect the family. The situation escalates further when Ernest and Jerome discover that their farm is under attack, and Ernest is severely beaten by a group of water merchants, led by a man named Caleb. Caleb threatens Ernest, forcing him to drink alcohol, and the equipment they've stolen is used to manipulate him. Ernest begins to spiral into alcoholism as his hope of saving the land and his family fades, all while the tensions with the water merchants continue to rise. At the beginning of the story, Willem takes advantage of an opportunity to strike Ernest with a rock, causing Ernest to hit his head on the rocks and fall unconscious, bleeding. As Ernest lies there, he remembers Catherine's accident and reflects on the consequences of his drinking habits. When Ernest regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up with poison nearby, and Willem is raving mad with alcohol. Meanwhile, William heads to the farm with Mary, who is planning to escape with him. Jerome, concerned for Ernest, sets out to find him. At night, he comes across Sim at a camp and learns that his father has died in a car accident. The family prepares for the funeral, and Mary returns to grieve with her sisters. They visit their mother to break the sad news. Willem drives them home, but Jerome refuses to ride with him, preferring to walk. On the farm, Jerome, filled with anger, lashes out at Sim. Flem intervenes, telling Jerome that while grief is hard, he cannot let it destroy their livelihood. Flem reveals that Mary is pregnant and promises to help the family, offering a solution to their dire situation. Jerome reluctantly agrees, and later Flem convinces Caleb to install a water pipe on the farm, using Ernest's death as leverage. After a few days, the new pump is installed, and the family works hard to prepare the land and plant crops. They enjoy a proper shower for the first time in years, but Willem's obsession with Ernest's death clouds his mind. The debts are mounting, and Flem takes action to secure the farm's future, using money from selling Ruby's baby to pay off the bank. Ruby, distressed, urges them to return the baby, but instead, They sell it, and Ruby is killed. Sim, damaged during the altercation, is returned to the original factory, and Flem uses the proceeds to pay off the debts. Meanwhile, Jerome grows suspicious of Flem's actions and his involvement in Ernest's death. His suspicion deepens when he uncovers that Flem orchestrated Ernest's death, tying him to a car and making it appear as though Sim was responsible for the accident. Jerome is devastated by the revelation and, after an emotional breakdown, returns to the farm to confront Flem. When he finds Flem in the barn, he is shocked to see Sim there, unharmed. Flem claims that Ruby must have returned Sim out of remorse. Despite this, Jerome decides to confront Flem and vows to take care of his family, just as Ernest had. A few days later, Jerome and Willem go hunting, but when Willem's shots miss, Jerome proves that the issue lies with Flem's poor aim, not the gun. This revelation fuels Jerome's anger. Later, Willem grows frustrated with Jerome and accuses him of lying about Ruby. Jerome confirms the truth, causing Willem to storm off. Willem later receives a letter from Ruby, but it's actually from Jerome, who plans to confront him. Jerome also hides the gun, and when Willem confronts him, he tells him it's being repaired. Jerome leads Flem to the rocks with Sim, where Flem falls into a hidden hole and injures his leg. As Flem screams for help, Jerome arrives, holding a stone and realizing Flem's guilt. Flem begs for mercy, but Jerome, filled with anger and determination, leaves him to suffer under the scorching sun. Flem continues pleading, trying to manipulate Jerome by speaking of his sister and the baby, but Jerome, consumed by rage, shoots and kills Flem. He returns home and convinces Mary that Flem was the one who left her, never revealing the truth about Ernest's death. With the money from the crops, the family is able to buy real food and take care of their needs. Jerome and his sisters decide to use the money to buy Catherine's freedom from the hospital, so she can live with them. Jerome then deletes all the videos from Sim, signaling a fresh start for the family. This marks the end of the story, with the Holm family finding a way to rebuild their lives after the tragedy.